And without further ado, let me just go ahead and pull up this graphic real quick so that way you guys can see who is in and who is out. So I will go ahead and hold on just 1 second. Let me just get it ready. There we go. See, I told you guys I'd have a graphic ready for you. Now, doesn't it look fantastic? I think it looks great. Shout out to Taishira for making this for me. She does a great job. She makes a lot of the graphics for all of the shows that we do on the YouTube channel. So it's like if you see the sports podcast that we have, they use graphics that she makes as well. Same with the football. It's mainly football that uses a lot of those graphics. That's going to use some of the graphics in the future. So just thank you for that. Shout out to her. So this is how the standings are looking like. Obviously, if you're in green, you qualify. If you're not in green, in which case you'd be in red, you're disqualified. So for those of you guys that are on the audio side, Canada finished with a record of 3-0 and a point differential of plus 20, so they qualify. Australia, they ended up having a 1-2 record, and Greece ended up having a 1-2 record as well. But due to the point differential between Australia and Greece, Australia was able to rank second in the Group A standings and had they had a point differential of -4, and they've qualified. Same with Greece; they ended up qualifying 1-2 with they had a record of 1-2 and a plus-minus or a point differential of -8. Spain had the exact same record as Greece and the exact same point differential as Greece, leaving a lot of people wondering why Spain was able to qualify. Why Spain was unable to qualify and Greece was able to qualify, especially when you consider the fact that Spain was able to beat Greece in their head-to-head matchups. I'm going to get to that in the next segment. I'm not going to dwindle on this now, but essentially there is a tiebreaker in place when the point differential tiebreaker isn't working, right? There is a way that they differentiate it, and I'm just going to go ahead and explain that in the next segment, because if I were to explain it here, it would take up way too much time. So next we go into the Group B standings, and this is one of the more competitive standings, I guess you could say. Germany, they ended up beating France the other day, therefore they end up finishing with a 3-0 record in their standings. They ended up finishing with a point differential of plus 26, 3-0, so they are the number 1 seed for the Group B standings. And France, since they lost to Germany, they're now 2-1, and they have a point differential of plus 2. Brazil got extremely, extremely lucky that they were able to qualify, but it was mainly because of their point differential, because they were, once you look at the rest of the other teams, you'll understand why the point differential matters so much when you look at this. And they also ended up with the same record as Australia, Greece, and Spain, 1-2. It's just their point differential was better than a majority of them. And now Japan, arguably one of the worst teams in the entire basketball Olympic standings and the entire basketball in the Olympics period. They didn't win a single game. They were this close to winning a game against France, but they ultimately lost in overtime. You could argue that it was a little bit of a fluky win because the guy made a crazy and one 3-pointer. And, because of that and one 3-pointer, they were able to advance. But, aside from that, I wouldn't call this fluky. That was just a little bit unlucky, and it happens. It genuinely happens. But the only reason why they aren't the worst team in the entire Olympics is because of Puerto Rico right here in the Group C standings. Look at that point differential. That is abysmal. But again, when you play in a standing with the United States, your point differential isn't really going to be all that much. But then again, every single team was able to beat Puerto Rico. The only team that was unable to win was Puerto Rico in the standings. So yeah, it's not really looking good for Puerto Rico. But aside from that and the point differential, for those of you guys on the audio side, Puerto Rico, they finished 0-3 with a point differential of minus 73. Minus 73, which is insane. That is a huge gap between 1 and 2. That is a crazy gap. But I digress. So South Sudan, their Olympic run is over. Unfortunate for them. They ended up finishing 1-2 with a point differential of minus 17 because of their recent matchup with Serbia. As I mentioned before in the previous segment, Serbia, they ended up winning 96-85. So that affected South Sudan's point differential dramatically, therefore removing them from contention completely. But then again, South Sudan needed to win if they had any hopes of even, qualifying for the tournament. But Serbia, because of the win against South Sudan and also because of the win against Puerto Rico, they ended up finishing with a 2-1 record and a point differential of 26. It wasn't looking good for Serbia in the beginning because of their first opponent was the United States, and the United States basically mopped the floor with the Serbian team. But they were able to pick it up, and therefore they managed to make it into the standings. So, yay, good for them. And the United States obviously ended up flawless and ended with the best point differential amongst everybody in the entire standings. Like, at all. And, I just want to point this out. I mean, Serbia, while they are 2-1, as you could see right there, they have the best point differential amongst every single team on these lists. They have a better point differential than Canada. They have they have the same point differential as Germany, a better point differential than France, and the better record than Australia, Greece, but also a better point differential than all of those teams. And a big reason is because of their matchup against Puerto Rico, which goes to show why Puerto Rico wasn't the best team. Is arguably the worst team in the entire group standings. But enough of bullying Puerto Rico. Let's go right ahead and talk about the teams that are going into the quarterfinals, as well as who they play against in the quarterfinals. So the matchups, they have nothing to do with standings. I believe they have everything to do with the seeds and where you get placed. I believe. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's random the teams that you're able to draw and you're able to play against in the quarterfinal, because the quarterfinals looking something like this. Also, it should be noted that the quarterfinals for the Olympics, they're going to start on Tuesday, August 6th, and they start as early as 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, and they end at around 3:30 Eastern time. So just putting that out there, there's going to be only 4 games being played in the quarterfinal, because 4 games. So yeah, it doesn't sound really smart when I say it. But aside from that, the matchup's going to look like this. So Germany is going to end up playing Greece in the very first game at 5 o'clock. So Greece 1-2 with a -8, and Germany 3-0 with a +26. So clearly Germany has the better advantage in this matchup. But Greece, they were able to beat Australia, who actually has more NBA talent than the German team. So there is a possibility that Germany can get upset. There is a very huge possibility. Also, I don't think there's anybody on the German roster that is able to contain Giannis Antetokounmpo, but at the same time, I don't think there's anybody on the Greece roster that's able to contain Franz Wagner or Dennis Schroeder. But again, just food for thought. Next in the matchups at 8:30 is going to be Serbia, so 2-1 with a +26, against Australia, who is 1-2 with a point differential of -4. So I think between the two teams, Australia, just talking on NBA talent, they have the advantage. But given how Australia lost to the Greek national team, they lost to Giannis, and Giannis wasn't even playing that well, I'm very scared to see what's going to happen when they match up against Serbia and Jokic, especially with Bogdanovic on the team to help with the scoring. I mean, I think it's going to be very competitive, but I do think Serbia is going to have the better chance in advancing. Next is probably going to be the matchup of the entire day, and this matchup is going to happen right when my show is starting. So if you guys want to listen to my opinions and my takes on the game, I would be more than happy to give them, and I'll be more than happy to talk about them. So this is probably going to be the matchup of the quarterfinals. It is Canada 3-0 with the most NBA talent aside from the United States, and France. So 2-1 and +2 point differential. But it's going to be, Dylan Brooks, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, and they're going up against Victor Wembanyama. And, this is probably going to be the best matchup of the entire quarterfinals, aside from, maybe Serbia and Australia. I feel like that game could also be very competitive. But I think this matchup between France and Canada is going to be one for the ages, without a doubt. It's going to be great. And then finally, the United States, they play against Brazil in the final matchup on Tuesday at 3:30. Now, Brazil, they're 1-2 with a -7 point differential, and the United States is obviously flawless with a +64 point differential. I don't think this is going to be close at all. I think the United States is just going to mop the floor with this Brazilian team. I don't think there's anyone on Brazil that can contain LeBron. I don't think there's anyone on Brazil that can contain Kevin Durant. I don't think there's anyone on Brazil that can contain Anthony Edwards. And, there is going to be someone on Brazil that can contain Joel Embiid, though. But aside from that, again, the United States, they're going to just mop the floor with this team. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near as competitive as they want to be. But really, it's just I don't think the game is going to be close. That's just me, though. Again, this is why we play the game. Anything can happen, and anyone can win in these matchups. But again, Brazil is just, I don't think they got it. I really don't think they got it in them. The only team that Brazil was even able to beat in the standings was arguably the second worst team in the entire Olympic standings. So it's not really looking good for Brazil going into this. But that is all that I have for you guys on the standings and just my opinions on what's going to happen, this, that, and the other. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment, which is going to just, explain a little bit as to why the Greek team qualified for the quarterfinals, or Greece, I should say, qualified for the quarterfinals, but Spain did not. So I'm just going to go ahead and explain why in this third segment, because a lot of people were confused on that. So be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.